Halo continues to receive mixed messaging after confidence in 343 started to waver. Now we have Phil Spencer doing an interview where he says that 343 is critical to the future of Halo, but then a survey has gone out seemingly to call that into question and shake confidence in whether or not 343 will continue to work on the Halo franchise. I'm going to break all this down for you as quickly as I can. I do want to give a bit of a recap so that you can see the entire timeline. So if you haven't been following this, we've covered this as best we can. In the wake of the Microsoft layoffs, that served as a catalyst to some leaks that came out about Halo as well as the future plans for the franchise. Lots of people got confused on this timeline and thought that maybe the layoffs were the catalyst to, all these things have been canceled now. But the actual timeline's a little bit different. Around the time that Bonnie Ross stepped down, Joseph Staten's small team that had been planning some things for campaign and DLC was essentially scrapped as a plan, which ultimately then led to layoffs where much of the campaign team was hit the hardest. It actually makes the most sense given that right now the game is sort of on life support with the next season not even out yet, and only focusing on multiplayer I think does make the most sense, especially if you're going to lay people off and trim down the team. Many people misunderstood that timeline, so I was trying to clarify that. The layoffs didn't lead to canceled DLC plans or campaign with Joseph Staten. That had already happened, and the layoffs were sort of, a great opportunity for people to speak out and say, hey, I worked there, it was terrible, the contract situation was awful. Oh, and yeah, they had all these great plans that got scrapped. Now, this required what seemed like a response directly from 343. They send out a tweet and they basically say, listen, Halo's here to stay, and 343 will continue to work on it. They're sort of trying to establish, that Master Chief's not going anywhere, Halo's not going anywhere. It was really vague. They didn't really say much, and we covered it. I have a stream where I basically said, listen, they said nothing here, okay? They didn't really say anything significant. Now, the two more developments on top of this, I think, are significant. Phil Spencer sits down with IGN and wants to establish where things stand with 343, because obviously everybody wants to know what on earth is going on. Is this title basically done? Is Halo Infinite going to continue? We don't really know. That was another thing that I pointed out in that tweet from 343 about Halo, was that they don't really establish what's going on with Halo Infinite. They just say that Halo's not going anywhere, which, okay, as a franchise, I wouldn't think you would just kill it at this point, but, many people think they might. Anyways, Phil sits down, and first he speaks to the layoffs as well as sort of answering the question, is 2023 a critical year? And his answer to IGN was, every year is critical. I don't find this year to be more or less critical. I feel good about our momentum. Obviously, we're going through some adjustments right now that are painful, but I think necessary. But it's really to set us up and the teams for long-term success. So he's essentially saying, listen, this sucks, but we think this will help us with long-term success, which is kind of a way of saying that, yeah, we had to come in and do some painful things because we weren't set up for long-term success. That was something that I kind of put in the laps of all of the people who continue to come to me and tell me Halo's fine, Halo Infinite's a great game, Halo Infinite's one of the best Halos ever made. And I'm like, well, if that's true, then what's Microsoft doing? If the game is so fine and so great, Microsoft is seemingly going to mess with that formula by laying people off and getting rid of folks and restructuring, and Bonnie Ross is gone and Joseph Staten's gone. Well, you have to admit at some point that Halo Infinite has just been in a very, very poor state. Now, he quickly transitions to Halo and 343. He says the following: Halo will remain critically important to what Xbox is doing, and 343 is critically important to the success of Halo. The heart and soul of Halo is with 343 and the team that's there, and I have the utmost confidence in the team that's there and leading and the plan that they have going forward. So you can sort of hear he's talking about, like, okay, so the team that's there now and the team that's leading and the plan they have going forward, I have the utmost confidence in that team. Remember, they're bringing in Pierre Hintz. He's the guy that turned the Master Chief collection around. So that might actually be Phil saying, yeah, we got the right people in charge now. That's not a slam against Joseph Staten, by the way. Joseph Staten actually got this dadgum game out the door. it was in a bit of a crisis mode prior to him coming on board. The thing that's interesting, though, is in the wake of him saying that 343 is critically important to the success of Halo, none of this is a direct refutation of other teams coming in and working on future content, right? If you are going to bring in and onboard other directors to work on Halo, and you're going to use 343 as that sort of catalyst and that training and that onboarding, then yeah, they would be playing a critical role in the future of Halo if the leak is true. Now, they would be then that central piece and that catalyst to everything working, and honestly, trimming them down to a smaller size really works for that theory. You wouldn't need a bunch of bandwidth. You wouldn't need a campaign team. You could shrink them down and say, listen, you're going to be essentially training these other developers when they come in to work on the game and build future Halo projects. It remains to be seen if the hiring freeze at 343 ends, as that would be a clear indication that 343 is expanding for future content plans and support. So if they don't ever end that hiring freeze, if we never see some big influx of, hey, we've got a bunch of jobs open now, we want a bunch of people to come in and work at 343, then the theory might start to get more legs that yes, 343 is still heavily involved and critical, but they're more of a central onboarding critical role than the actual active development company making future Halo content. Okay, and then mixed messaging hits right after this interview. He does this interview, and then all of a sudden these surveys go out that are asking people questions that seem to indicate that 343 is kind of getting thrown under the bus by this survey. According to GameRant.com, a Halo Infinite survey suggests that Xbox may be moving away or forward from the franchise. A recent survey issued by Xbox Research hints that Microsoft may be reconsidering its long-term plans for 343 Industries' troubled Halo Infinite. Now, this survey could primarily be about Halo Infinite as a title, okay? We got to get out of here. This is a sinking ship. We got to start over. We got to restructure. We need a whole new bandwidth setup and pipeline setup, and we need different teams and different policies and procedures in general, okay? The tone and the timing of this survey, I don't think can be ignored. According to GameRant, a new survey sent out to members of Microsoft's Xbox Research program suggests that the company may be reconsidering its plans for Halo Infinite and 343 Industries as it charts the future of the Xbox brand. So the first question really wasted no time at all, okay? They got right to the point. They said, "Are you done playing Halo Infinite?" This might indicate, I hate laughing, but golly, that's a sad question. This might indicate that they're like, listen, this is mainly about Halo Infinite. Like, this thing is probably done, okay? We're not going to continue it anymore. Nobody's really playing it anyway. Now, they really mix things around here because they go from asking about game modes to asking about confidence in 343. Subsequent questions asked gamers for feedback about what game modes they would like to see added to Halo Infinite, as well as several questions seemingly designed to gauge gamers' trust in developer 343 Industries and their continued ability to carry the franchise. So that's a little odd, if you ask me. That, like, you're going to ask everybody, hey, what do you think about Halo Infinite? Yeah? What kind of game modes would you like to see? Oh, by the way, what's your confidence in 343 and how they're doing? Like, that's, again, right on the heels of Phil Spencer saying, they're critical. They're central to everything that's going to be going on. No, so on the one hand, we have 343 saying they're staying, they're not going anywhere, neither is Halo and Master Chief. Then you have Phil Spencer seemingly backing that language, saying that 343 is critical, but then the survey takes on a whole different form of messaging. Why question consumer confidence in 343 if you've already decided that 343 is not going anywhere? If you've already made up your mind and you're like, nah, 343 is here to stay, 343 is not going anywhere, then what's the point in asking for consumer confidence in 343? Are you going to backseat them to a certain degree, kind of take them out of the frame so people can start to feel better about whether or not, 343 can manage the game? I think baking 343 into the survey disrupts the confident message that 343 and Phil are trying to put out there, primarily with respect 343 Industries being involved going forward. At the end of the day, it doesn't increase my confidence in 343 to be asked about them in a survey. It shakes my confidence. If you want me to feel confident in their ability to lead the franchise and to lead the game, why are you asking me about them? You should be asking me about the game. You should be asking me about what I want to see from the game, not whether or not I'm confident in their ability to run things. It's almost like you want me to decide the fate of 343, right? Now, I'm not trying to look too much deep into this survey, but just on the cusp of what Phil said, I think this really creates mixed messaging. It creates this air of, well, they might be getting rid of these guys, right? I certainly hope that I'm wrong and that 343 and the future of Halo can be given the tools and the support necessary to succeed. Get rid of the 18-month contract policy, Microsoft. Empower them to expand and hit higher levels of bandwidth and efficiency, even if that includes bringing in other developers as onboarded help and support. Microsoft has to be willing to take ownership of their part in this. Send out a survey about how good of a job you're doing, Microsoft. Send out a survey about how satisfied consumers are with your 18-month contract policy and what former employees are saying it does to projects that you're shipping on your platform. Send out a survey about that. See how well that goes. If the rumors about Redfall and Starfield are true, it is time for a change. We're hearing that Redfall and Starfield are in rough shape, but Microsoft wants to ship them within the fiscal year, even though Bethesda would like more time with both titles. They might not get it. Now, those rumors might not be true, but if those rumors end up coming true, if we get on the other side of June and we got a bad launch for Redfall and a bad launch for Starfield, how can you not look at that and say there's a pattern here? Don't throw 343 under the bus in a survey. Figure it out. Figure out a way to harmoniously work with these developers so that they can create good products. You took your boy. You took your man. What have you done to your boy? You took Master Chief and you basically threw him in a trash heap. This is not the way to treat your big first-party property, okay? It's also time, I think, to make good on the words of Phil Spencer about allowing teams to own their destiny with their titles. How can they do that with terrible contract policies and hiring freezes? In conclusion, the mixed messaging will likely continue until they decide to cast a clearer vision for Halo's future, and that isn't something that's just totally vague, generic, or in conflict with itself. As always, if you like this video, hit subscribe and the bell button. That way you can check out all my uploads and all my live streams, and I'll see you in the next video.